I think the thing that people really get caught up on is feeling like they have to close a deal before the 18th hole is done. So what happens in that scenario is you end up just pitching for 4 hours. And so the people that you're with, they're not going to want to go out and play golf with you again if that's what happens. Everybody sat through a timeshare presentation, and maybe you get a good gift at the end, and the gift in a round of golf is getting out of the office and playing golf. But if you're just pitched to for a constant 4 hours and you're not interested in what the person is trying to sell you, it's really easy to just get disconnected and then just leave that round with that taste in your mouth. What we always tell people is you need to leave your playing partners on the 18th hole with an impression of who you are and what you're about and having that strong relationship. It's all about building a relationship and not necessarily about closing a deal when you're doing business on the golf course.
Hi, this is Ron Salvati from Westchester, Ohio, and I play at Four Bridges Country Club. This is Golf Smarter number 915.
How to increase your bottom line on the golf course with FairwaysRM and Joe Canfield.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Joe.
Hey, Fred. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
This is going to be an interesting conversation because I've always loved the idea of how do we do business on the golf course? Right. And, because there's myths about doing business on the golf course. And I think that you're going to help us, identify those myths and debunk them or support them, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about your business, FairwaysRM.
Yeah, so I went to business school about 10 years ago, and while I was there, I was playing around a golf with a couple of my classmates, and about the fourth tee, I looked at them and I said, why don't we have a 1 credit hour course that teaches us? You always hear, business happens on the golf course. Why isn't there anything in business school anywhere that teaches you actually how to do it? And so that thought had been in my mind for a while, and fast forward, I got into a job doing partnerships and sports and on the university side of things. And I started playing golf with partners, and I had no idea what I was doing. And so I'm like, okay, there's got to be somebody out here who's put something out that has, put some sort of a framework together, or at least has tips and tricks. And as far as I could tell, there was nothing there. So over the last 8 years, yeah, it's kind of crazy to me that nobody's been able to, as far as I can tell, put the two together. So over the last 8 years, while I've been out playing golf with partners and meeting people who have been successful at doing it for business, I've just asked a ton of questions. I've been reading up on how you build relationships, both on, the romantic side and the business side, and figuring out, okay, what works and where, and then going out on the golf course and doing it myself. And so here we are 8 years later. I've built the training that I take people through that teaches you really how to do it. And so it's been a lot of fun. I've been playing the game since I was 7 years old, and you would think with that kind of experience, you'd be a natural fit to do it for business, but it really wasn't. And it's definitely a skill that can be taught and needs to be learned by a lot of people.
It's just fascinating that you identified it, that you realized. I love the idea of a 1 credit course, at least 1 credit. Right. But does that come out of the physical education department, or does that come out of the business school?
Right. My original thought was always, okay, you do, half in the classroom talking through etiquette and how and when to bring up business and things like that. And then the other half is actually going out and learning how to play. I always tell people, and I think one of the themes of your podcast is really, you don't have to be great at golf to have fun doing it. Right. And I always tell people too, because that's one of the things that people kind of miss, is they always will say, well, I'm not good at golf. I don't want to go out and embarrass myself in front of somebody I don't know that well.
Of course.
And that's fine. That's a legitimate concern. But
Absolutely.
At the same time, it's like, nobody's good at golf. Even the PGA Tour guys hit bad shots all the time. No one's good at it. It's an impossible game.
So I say that to people all the time. They go, I suck at golf. I said, everybody sucks at golf.
Everybody sucks at golf.
I mean, even the best players in the world are complaining about a shot they missed.
Exactly.
Right?
And so I tell people, I'm like, yeah, you want to at least be competent. You want to be able to get a ball on the green within 6 to 7 shots. And I've been teaching a little bit of golf here and there. And so that's something that I've tried to bring into it as well, to not only make it a little bit more fun for people to go through a corporate training, but to help you build that skill, because really part of doing business on the course is having confidence, right? Being confident in your ability to have a good conversation. And if you're focused on how bad you are at the game or how terrible you're playing, you're not going to have those kinds of conversations and the level of conversation that you need to have to start building strong relationships.
Right. But what do you have when you started this company? How long have you had this company now?
I've been running it for about a year now. We've been doing testing and all that kind of stuff. We launched an online course just about a month ago, but we've been doing corporate trainings for about a year now.
But you have a job as you're starting to do this, or this is your life right now?
No, I still work full time. I do partnerships and development for the University of Utah. But I mean, ideal scenario, I'd love to jump in to do this and teach people how to play golf. And I do think it's a marketable skill. I mean, one of the crazy things was, I was coming out of business school. I'm a 23-year-old kid, and I'm the only one who played golf in the office. And so all of a sudden I find myself playing golf with people that are, the head of marketing of multinational corporations and CEOs of companies in the Valley. And, I'm sitting here as a 23-year-old kid, and the only reason I'm in that scenario is because I played golf, right? And so it's something that I wish more people would pick up when they're younger, right? And they were able to use it. And people ask me, well, is it really a marketable skill? I go, well, yeah, I think it is. I've been able to get to where I'm at in my career because I've been able to use it and have had an audience with people that I would never have in any other scenario.
And you've probably played some pretty fun courses.
We've been some fun places. We've
and you get to write it all off.
So yeah, exactly.
Where's the downside here?
Right. I mean, that's the dream. One of the things that I've been fortunate to do, one of the corporate trainings we did was actually up at Bandon Dunes. And that was incredible. I'd never been before. And I think you could spend, years there and not get bored. That place is incredible. But taking a partner up and letting them experience that, and then having that experience with somebody else, like that's a relationship that's never going to die. Even if they move on to another company or whatever, like you're always going to have that connection once you experience something like that.
Oh, especially if you have a budget to do that and someone else is paying for it. Oh my God.
Right. If it was on their dime, it might be not so much, but they would still be some good memories there for sure.
No. You're trying to get clients. You're trying to close business. So you got to take care of that. But still,
absolutely.
Going to places like Bandon Dunes, as I was up
people,
there earlier this year.
People do it all the time. I mean, it's obviously it's high ticket type sales. It's relationship based sales. It's not necessarily you're selling them a software package or something like that. It's the industries are typically, banking, insurance, and kind of high end types of, VCs are taking people out. There's a few groups here in Utah where I'm based that, they load up people on a private jet. They go fly out, they play golf for a couple of days, and then they come back. And that's how they generate their business. And I think it's lost on people, like how valuable that actually is. They see the cost of it and they see the expense, but they don't understand the value of having strong relationships and how much easier it is to do business with people that you like and you've already built that relationship with, right?
Yeah, exactly. My son works in private equity. Mm-hmm. And so he gets taken to a lot of great courses. And every year they've got a group of like 28 guys that goes up to Bandon.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay. I mean, like he had an injury, so he hasn't played in a number of months. But right before the injury, he was in Ireland with 9 guys.
Nice.
And I'm just like playing munis locally. And it's like, no, Dad, I'm not. No.
It's not the same thing. Yeah.
Not the same thing. Not the same thing. No. So when you talk about teaching golf, are you talking about the mechanics of golf? Or are you just talking about doing business, the mechanics of doing business on the golf course?
So it's interesting enough. The original idea that I had was to combine both, because I do believe that you need to be confident enough in your golf game that that's not what you're worried about when you're out playing. You're able to play. And so I'm doing both. So what a typical training looks like from us is we spend 2 hours in the office with you. we talk through, when we go through a number of exercises, we work on understanding the value that you personally bring to a round of golf, because once you've understand the value that you can deliver to somebody else, that confidence level just shoots up, right? You already know, okay, great. I know exactly what I have to deliver. My invite's going to be succinct. It's going to be great. I know how to get somebody onto the course. And then we talk through golf etiquette, because that's another big excuse people use is I'm not good at golf. And then I don't want to embarrass myself by breaking some of these unwritten rules. And everybody who's in golf knows that, etiquette's subjective and some people do things different than others. And so we cover a lot of that stuff. And then the next day, what we do is we go out on the course and I teach a swing lesson. We go through everything from putting. We start with putting, go to chipping, pitching, full swing, and then drivers. And then we sit down and we have lunch. And then I turn you loose to go play 18 holes and put into practice what we talked about the day before.
Fascinating. You talked about how golf is supposed to be fun,
right? Even
if you're awful. Let me just say, golf gets more fun the better you get. So it's worth the effort. It's worth
if you have the right attitude, though. If you had a bad attitude, it's never fun.
It's never fun. And if you keep blaming yourself, it's like, lighten up. Yeah. Like I told a friend of mine, we were playing a week or so ago, and he started yelling at himself. And I said, don't talk to my friend that way. All right, listen, we're going to take a timeout. We're going to be back right after this. Joe, there's got to be a number of rules and myths about doing business on the golf course. Do you have your own list? Do you have your own way of approaching those things?
Yeah, I think the thing that people really get caught up on is feeling like they have to close a deal before the 18th hole's done, right? And so what happens in that scenario is you end up just pitching for 4 hours. And so the people that you're with, and they're not going to want to go out and play golf with you again if that's what happens. Everybody sat through a timeshare presentation and, maybe you get a good gift at the end, and the gift in a round of golf is getting out of the office and playing golf. But if you're just pitched to for a constant 4 hours and you're not interested in what the person is trying to sell you, it's really easy to just get disconnected and then just leave that round with that taste in your mouth. What we always tell people is you need to leave your playing partners on the 18th hole with an impression of who you are and what you're about and having that strong relationship, right? It's all about building a relationship and not necessarily about closing a deal when you're doing business on the golf course. That comes after, right? We really believe in the value of relationships and the power of building strong relationships, because at the end of the day, we do business with people that we like. It's whether that's right or wrong, that's how it happens, right? You need something done. You want to be able to pick up the phone and call somebody that you know is going to be able to get it done for you. So what we teach is how to emulate those values through a round of golf that's going to leave that person feeling like, okay, I need something done. I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call Fred because I know that he's going to be able to get it done for me. So that's one of the big ones is it's not about closing deals. It's about building relationships, and then the deal comes later.
And what about, that's awesome. That is absolutely fabulous. I love that. What about, somebody once told me in an early episode that you don't do business on the golf course, which is basically what you're saying, is you learn about whether or not you want to do business with that person. Absolutely. By being on the golf course because of character. Yep. And golf exposes character.
Yeah, I just posted this the other day on our LinkedIn page, but there's a stat that came out. It was a study done. It was a survey sent out to Fortune 500 CEOs, and 54% of them said that they believe that the way someone conducts themselves on the golf course is the same way that they conduct themselves in business.
There you go.
I want to say that the other 46% don't want to admit that their poor behavior is affecting their bottom line. And so it's so true. You learn so much about somebody in a scenario that you're not going to get in a conference room, right? You've broken down so many barriers through golf that's a more casual setting. Like you're going to have more conversations based around personal things. It's not all business, and you're sitting on the same playing field too, right? Like there's always, you're taught in negotiation courses in business school that where you sit in the room is important. On a golf course, yeah, you can set up the golf carts in the right way and you can drive, and there's a few little nuances that you can do there. But at the end of the day, you're both playing the same course.
Yeah. What about gambling on the golf course with somebody you're trying to do business with?
Yeah.
Gambling always enters the conversation when you're playing golf, right?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of playing $5, never big money. If you're and not jumping into it right away either. If you're playing with somebody for the first time, I highly advise against gambling with them.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. And then this is another myth too, that is people feel like you need to make that person win so they feel good about themselves. I don't agree with that.
Good for you.
Because
I do too. Because you're playing your game.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Play your game.
Yeah, play your game and show that you are a person of character. Because I think letting somebody win is almost a form of lying, right? It's like I'm going to sandbag it and I'm going to do what I have to make this person like me instead of just being a likable person. But yeah, I'll play $5 aside here and there, and that's always fun. And it's a good tool to use when you're playing with people of very different abilities. Right. So, I'm a fairly good player. I'm a low single digit handicap, and I'll play with a lot of guys who are higher handicaps. And what we'll do is we'll play 2-man scrambles, right? And we'll put me with the person who's not of great ability, and that helps them feel better about the day because they have a chance to win something. And you build good camaraderie that way with the team game as well. Like you're showing teamwork, and you get to learn more about how somebody responds in a team setting too. Right.
It's interesting. Letting somebody win is like lying. It's so powerful and so true. Great approach. You mentioned LinkedIn, that you did a post on LinkedIn the other day. Have you for your company, that one social media element is better than the other for what you're trying to expose?
I think for me, yeah, LinkedIn has definitely been the place to be just because of the nature of what I'm talking about and what we're teaching. It's very business driven, very business focused. LinkedIn is used by a lot of people for sales. And so they kind of see what we're talking about and kind of get into that. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm good at the online, lead generation or whatever it is. Now I need to actually start putting stuff into practice. I need to get that in face, one-on-one interaction. And so, yeah, we found some success there. I think Tiger just came out. There's a video of Tiger that was posted the other day about swing tips on YouTube. He said, quit watching YouTube and just get out there and start hitting balls. And I kind of agree with that a little bit, where, the other social media platforms will lean into kind of these swing tips and things like that. While there's some great stuff out there, it's really hard to build a complete swing on YouTube tips alone.
That's why you need this podcast.
Yeah, right.
Just to remind you that, the swing is not the whole thing, right? I mean, it's being on the golf course. It's learning every shot. And it's not beating yourself up, as we talked about already.
Yeah.
What about other rules and myths that you like to present when you're talking to a group?
Yeah, I think golf etiquette people make way more complicated than it needs to be. And so what we really talk about is there are 3 things that you need to make sure that you're following every time you're on the golf course, and the rest of it is all subjective. And those 3 things are not creating a distraction while somebody else is hitting. So you hear don't talk into backswing, but that kind of extends to distractions, movement, shadows, all that kind of fun stuff.
Don't open a bag of potato chips and start chomping on them.
Yeah, right. Turn your phone on silent, not vibrate, so you don't hear it, right? That's one of them.
Start playing a theme song to some movie.
Right. The second one is it kind of extends into the not creating a distraction, but walking in people's lines on the green. That one should go without saying. That one's pretty obvious.
Not to everybody.
Not to everyone. Yeah, I know. I see it a lot. I play with a lot of people, and then you're kind of like, what, really? I'm working with my 6-year-old on it. He's getting better.
He has a pass.
Yeah, that's right. And the third that we really stress that I think a lot of people miss is cell phone use on the course. I think that takes you away from what you're trying to accomplish. It tells people that I would rather be anywhere else but here because this phone call is coming in. And talking through those types of things, being present in the moment, I think is that's the third thing that we really hit on with golf etiquette is if you can do that, don't cause distractions, watch where you're walking on greens and be present. All the rest of it's going to fall into place.
I've got a friend who is on his phone, like when other people are hitting at the tee box and there's 4 guys standing there and this guy's just on his phone, checking Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called. And checking to see if he's got any messages and texting people. And it's like, am I here with you? Or like, what? Yeah, right. Why are you doing that? It's like, I find it distracting when somebody else is on the phone just to themselves. But I feel like, well, if you don't want me, you invited me to your club. If you don't want me to be
right,
here.
Exactly. Well, and you run into other things. I mean, you were talking earlier about your son playing all these incredible golf courses, and some of those will have rules against even having your phone out, right? And I've run into that before where, the Salt Lake Country Club here is a nice club, and they're a tuck in your shirt and wear a belt type of club. And there's people that don't understand that. It's not something that's commonplace, and especially for some business people that don't play golf very often, like they're not going to know those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so that's what we tell people that too. Like if you're inviting somebody to a nice club, make sure they understand the rules before they get there, so they're not embarrassed before you even hit a ball.
Right. And, and some of those rules are archaic and some of them are stuffy and and a lot of them give golf a bad reputation. I really believe.
Yep.
Why would you, okay, I won't wear cutoffs, but why do you care if my shirt's tucked in?
Right.
Come on, really?
Yeah.
And then there are courses that have rules where cell phones are not allowed, but cigars are.
Yep, exactly.
I find that really interesting. That's like, oh, okay.
The thing of it is there are all these strange rules. There's all these things that don't make a ton of sense to a lot of people who are outside of the game. But if you look back at it and really kind of go back to the roots of golf, it's all rooted in respect, right? Respect for the game, respect for the course, respect for your playing partners. And that's why all these little silly rules exist. One that I picked up on a little bit later of my life, and I thank somebody down in the South for this, is always removing your hat when you walk into the clubhouse.
Right.
That's something so trivial. I've never even thought about that throughout my life, And
especially at the end of 18 holes and it's been a hot day and you got terrible hat head.
Exactly.
You don't want to take the hat off.
You don't want to, but it's a sign of respect. And if everybody's doing it, they've all got messy hat hair, right? It's not the thing that you should be necessarily that worried about it. And, after the round, you're sitting in the clubhouse having a drink, taking your glasses and your hat off and setting them on the table shows, hey, I'm here, I'm present, I want to have a conversation with you. I'm not ready to just walk out the door. It's the same thing as being on cell phones.
I've got a follow-up to that we're going to talk about, but we're going to take another break and we'll be back. Okay, I've got one for you that, where does this fall in the whole etiquette thing? Having a speaker hanging from your golf cart playing music that can be heard over 3 different holes.
This is one we do address.
Oh, good. Because that one kind of makes me crazy. It's like, put on headphones, man.
Yeah, right. It's becoming part of the game more and more. And you're seeing golf manufacturers actually build equipment. Bushnell has their speakers, and you're seeing it more and more. And our take on it is this is where one of those personal preference things. This is where that kind of gray area etiquette fits. So I always say, find out the preference of your playing partners, right? And figure out how they want to manage that. And then if they do want to play music or they are playing music, make sure you're not playing it loud enough that other groups can hear it. That's what you just said. Like, you don't want to hear that 3 holes away. I'm not a big fan of music on the golf course, but I'll tolerate it. It's fine as long as it's my group and we're aware of what's going on. I was actually playing in an amateur tournament about a month ago, and the 2 guys that I was playing with were like, "You care if we listen to music?" And I was like, "I don't love it, but I also don't mind. Just keep it low, right?" So it's one of those things. It just depends on your personal preference, and It's becoming more and more part of the game. Just don't let it distract the entire golf course. That does frustrate me, and I think it frustrates a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. And it's like when you're driving down the street and somebody's got the music going in their car,
right?
That you're like, where's that coming from? Wait, what do I need to pull over? It's like you hear this thumping and the car's bouncing. It's like, can't you just listen to it in your golf cart?
You can
That's
feel
fine.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you walk up to the green, please, if you're listening to music, while we're on the green, why don't you put it on pause so we can kind of concentrate?
It goes back to causing the distraction, right? If it's a constant noise, like if you're on a course and there's construction happening, you're not going to be mad about the tractors over there making noise because it's a constant noise. And so it's less of a distraction. You're not focused on it. But like if the song's changing or it's cutting in and out and it's doing these things, it's too loud or things like that, that causes a distraction, right? So as long as you can make the music part of the day, part of your ambient noise, then it's not necessarily a distraction. That's kind of the way that we look at it.
Oh, talk about distraction. I mean, I was watching the tennis U.S. Open, and during the women's semifinals, somebody got up to go to the bathroom, and the camera picked up on the guy and was watching him, and everybody stopped and stared at him, and he's like, what did I do? Oh, my God. And they're like, and then the announcer, the stadium, can you please sit down?
Yeah, right.
Whoa, I got to pee. No, you cannot pee in between during a point. Yikes.
It's pretty funny. That's a good parallel.
It's a distraction.
If you've played tennis, it's the same thing.
Right, exactly. So let's get back to your business and how more people can get involved. I'm curious, when you go and pitch your business to a corporation, take me through that. Let me hear your pitch. Yeah.
I mean, I covered a little bit of it with just my own personal experience with golf and how I've been able to make it a marketable skill for myself as much as, I have a background in graphic design too. That was my first job out of college. I did design work, so I understand how to do that. I think golf can be almost that same thing where this is a marketable skill for somebody. When I'm talking to corporations, it's all about, look, business is changing. It's more relational than it's ever been. You need to start building strong relationships, and using golf as a tool is something that anybody can learn how to do. And so let's start working with your sales team, get them off of the phones and get them actually in front of people building relationships, because that is where your business is going to thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. And are you finding that you're doing less and less face-to-face business pitches and doing it more like what we're doing here, is looking at each other and talking?
Yeah, it's not as much as it was obviously 2 or 3 years ago. And I've always, on our online course, we actually go through this. We have 5 levels of communication, starting with cold email outreaches all the way into playing golf with somebody. And every level you go up, you're building a stronger relationship. You're creating an environment to share more about yourself and to learn more about the people that you're trying to work with. And so if you're missing out on those face-to-face opportunities, you're spending a lot of time spinning your wheels, especially with cold email outreach. I know we're here today because of a face-to-face interaction I had with one of your friends, right? And it was because we were at a conference together. I went up and introduced myself. Hey, I'm Joe. And I happened to be speaking at the conference, and I shared a little anecdote that he resonated with, and he came up after and said, this is awesome. I'd love to talk to you more about it. And so doing more of that type of stuff it's less effort and it's a lot higher return from what I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about what your trainings that you do offer at FairwaysRM. You have a variety of trainings that you do.
Yeah. So we do kind of what I've explained it a little bit we sit down, we do a 2-hour seminar, go through some workshops, and then we get on the golf course and actually learn how to play golf and then put into practice what we talked about. That's what our kind of bread and butter is. It's a quick, 2-day type training. We also do some one-on-one coaching that helps people understand the value that they can bring to a round of golf. We go through creating an actual value statement for you. We help you craft a pitch for how to get somebody on the golf course. And then we go through these etiquette things. We go through how you should be acting on the golf course, the values that you should be emulating. We have a set of 15 values that you can emulate through a round of golf. And what we typically do is we have somebody do a self-assessment on themselves of that. Okay, I'm great at doing this, and this. I'm very honest. I'm good at, I write down the right score every time, those types of things. And then we pick 3 or 4 of those things to work on. And I'll go out on the course with you and help you understand in what situations you can start to emulate those values and how you can work that in. And then what we do is we work on follow-up as well, because that's really where the business happens. Like we talked about, the round of golf is all about building a relationship. And then afterwards is where you're going to actually close the business. And there's some tactics and things that we teach and help on that end as well.
Now, golf business, let's say, is a 12-month-a-year engagement. Right. Golf isn't necessarily 12 months a year. Like you're in Utah, you probably don't get to play golf 12 months a year.
No, I'm fortunate that Las Vegas is only 6 hours away, so I'll jump in the car and head down.
So what about those people who don't get to play golf all year long, but still would like to use these methods to improve their business?
Yeah,
their bottom line.
Yeah, and one of the themes we've been talking about a little bit is it is relationship based, right? And so, even though you can't golf all year long, you can build relationships all year long. You have that. You've played golf, but yeah, we do have some online courses that we offer that you can do during the winter. And I love to say, okay, let's get you going through the winter. So when spring hits and all those scramble invitations start to come in, you're ready to go. We do some corporate retreats as well. We mentioned Bandon Dunes. We take groups up there, and you can golf year round up there. It's always 60 degrees and usually rainy or windy, but you know what? It's one of those experiences you got to have. But yeah, that's a year round place. We take groups down to Las Vegas. That's a year round spot. And I really like to use that off season as kind of your training. Like let's start doing that. And then the other thing that we've been able to utilize too is the simulator business. That's grown like crazy out here in Utah. It seems like a new one's popping up every day. I live in a little town about 45 minutes from Salt Lake of about 50,000 people, and we have 3 of them in our little valley. So they're all over the place. They're popping up everywhere. And that's something that we've been able to utilize as well. So not necessarily out on the course, but we can do swing lessons and we can go through all of the workshops and things that we have in that setting as well.
Are there businesses that don't work for what you're trying to achieve? Have you come across a business that you're going, yeah, you know what? You're right. This is not the right thing for you.
It could work for anybody, right? It just depends on your,
as long as you have sales and marketing. Yeah,
it depends on the ticket, like how much what your product is. And, it may not be the best thing for, a software as a service type company that's selling, $100 licenses or things like that. But for higher ticket items, it's great because you can go spend, $250, $300 entertaining 3 people for 4 hours, explaining what your product is. And if that helps you close a $3 million sale, then your cost of sales was like nothing, right?
Right.
And that's something that is a little bit of a learning curve for some companies because they look at it and go, well, I don't want to go spend $300 on one round of golf. That doesn't seem worth it to me. But I don't think that a lot of people understand exactly how much value they're getting out of that 4 hours.
Interesting. We're going to take one more time out, check out what's going on this week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, and then we'll come back and continue our conversation with Joe Canfield talking about FairwaysRM. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, we bring back a fascinating conversation with golf course architect Tripp Davis in an episode we call How the PGA Tour Impacts Golf Course Design.
The excitement level on the PGA Tour in terms of the number of players that golfers around the world can identify with and or it excites new people into the game certainly doesn't hurt. I think from a golf course construction perspective, in general, I think what it does follow more so than anything is the economy. The last boom, really prior to the late 50s, early 60s, was in the 20s, and during another economic boom in the United States. That time frame, actually, we had Bobby Jones and Walter Hagen and so forth. But, if you look at the period in the 30s and the 40s and even early 50s when you had Hogan and Snead and Mr. Nelson, there was a broad interest in the game following those guys. You didn't see much in the way of golf course development just because the economy wasn't very good.
Why'd you refer to him as Mr. Nelson and the other guys by their first name?
You'll have to check out episode 231 of Golf Smarter Mulligans to hear his response. Part 1 of 2, featuring golf course architect Tripp Davis on our sister podcast, Golf Smarter Mulligans, being released this Friday morning. Originally published in February of 2012. So if improving your game with Golf Smarter only once per week isn't enough, then don't miss the chance to get 2 episodes every week with Golf Smarter, the golf podcast that focuses on how to improve your game, not what's happening on the tour. And Golf Smarter Mulligans, episodes from our archives that revisit the best of Golf Smarter. They're both available for free from wherever you're listening right now. Joe, not all businesses are generating sales in the millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. There are companies that have, smaller. Maybe they're being courted by vendors who want to, if you have a retail business or something. But what are the if you want to treat a customer to a golf trip, right? You guys have played once before locally. Now you played another time. You're really enjoying each other. You're seeing that you're getting closer to closing something. You can really bring it up. What are kind of trips that work?
Yeah.
Golf trips / business outings.
Absolutely. Yeah. It'll depend on how serious of a golfer that person is, right? But anybody's going to love an invite to a place like Bandon Dunes. They're going to love an invite out to, Kiowa or any of these places that are these golf resorts that have hosted types of tournaments that are kind of cemented in golf lore, if you will. If you follow, it's the Golfer's Journal. They are always putting on events at these courses that are just incredible. Some of them are exclusive. They're exclusive clubs, but take a look at Golf Digest top 100 golf courses. Anybody's going to love an invite there. And a lot of these places have been built around the idea of stay and play. And when you're not playing, there's things for you to do. There's places for you to go to dinner. There's other activities and things like that. And these types of things, the golf trip, you always leave those with incredible memories, whether you're the one paying for it or not. Obviously it's better if it's being paid for you and you're out there having a great time on somebody else's dime. I always appreciate that. But even when you're hosting somebody, you build these memories with them and you build these relationships that make it so that the business comes easy. They're ready to go. They understand you. They know you as a person. They know that you're going to be able to come through for them in any type of situation. These are things that we always look at when we're doing these golf trips.
If you've got a company, a small company, large company, retail, whatever it is, should you have a percentage of your marketing budget set aside for golf?
Yeah, any company will know what their cost of sales is, right? And if you I always say, look at where you're spending money and where it is productive, right? A really good online advertising campaign is going to get you about a 10%, maybe a 5 to 10% conversion rate, right? Whereas a golf trip, you take 8 people out, you can probably jump that up to 70, 80% on your conversion rate.
Wow.
Right? Because you've built these close face-to-face relationships. You've had the time to sit down and talk through a lot of the issues that may come up, right? And so it's so much easier to have those in-person, face-to-face conversations. And when you're on the golf course, one of the things we talk about is how to bring these kinds of things up without making it feel salesy, right? Where can I add value for you? Let me listen to what this person has to say so I know that when it comes time to do business, I can tell them exactly the value that I'm going to deliver and how it's going to fix their pain points, right? It's no longer a generic message that you hope gets in the front of the right person. that the message you're sharing is getting in front of the person that it needs to be in front of.
Yeah. Yeah. So, wow. It's true. You're really going to look at the percentage of what your sales are, and what you've put into it. Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of sense to do it that way.
Yeah. And I mean, another crazy, interesting stat that we've come across when doing all this is that people have found that it's up to 25 times more expensive to generate new business than it is to maintain current clients.
Wow.
And so when you think about it in that realm, you're going, okay, if I can cut that number in half by taking people golfing, taking people on golf trips and retreats and things like that, you've already saved the money, right? And it's hard for businesses to wrap their heads around because it's the savings over generating revenue. It's a lot of business leaders and a lot of accountants, CFOs, they have a hard time seeing the cost savings versus bringing in actual top line revenue, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How do people find you, and what do you base your fees on a percentage on the size of the company, or do you have flat fees? How do you work this?
Yeah. So if we're doing a retreat, it depends on the location. Obviously, that'll vary a little bit with that, but we can do those starting at only $2,000 per person. You can come out here to Utah. We play beautiful golf courses like Soldier Hollow, Wasatch, stay in Midway, Utah, which is just a beautiful area. We also do them down in Las Vegas over the winter. We utilize a golf course called Angel Park down there, which is fantastic. They've got 2 18-hole courses there, beautiful practice facility, awesome people, and people like Vegas. Let's not lie here.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's fun.
Always looking for an excuse.
Yeah, right. And then we do some one-on-one coaching, and we have 4 and 8 week courses, and those are between $400 and $800. So it's all really affordable. You get some one-on-one time with me. And then when we do come to companies, it just kind of depends on if we're traveling, what courses we're utilizing and things like that. So it varies a little bit.
And if you're in sales, it doesn't matter what your product is. And most likely you're going to be selling something different in 5 years than you're selling today.
Right.
If you're a salesperson, you do sales no matter what your product is, because you understand that sales is relationship based.
Yep, absolutely.
So it may be the type of thing, if you're a salesperson, it may be the type of thing that you want to look into taking these courses and getting a fuller understanding of what you can bring to the table as a salesperson to wherever you're working.
Yeah, like we said, it's a marketable skill. It's marketable just as graphic design and anything else is in our opinion. Yeah. And for anybody who's hesitant and they don't want to get in and spend the $800 to go through a course, we do have online courses that start at $40 a month.
There you go.
And so that's a good way to just get a start and to get an idea of what it is you would be learning from us in person.
Yeah, get your toes wet. Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
Wow. Okay, so how do people find you guys?
So it's all at our website, just FairwaysRM.com. It's all on there, and our online course went live. We're actually working on another one right now. We talked a little bit earlier about gambling, but we're building a guide to games and gambling that we're going to be putting on there here pretty soon. So
wow,
we're hoping that'll be a hit. We think it will be. I mean, I know a lot of people have questions around it, but that one's going to be fun.
Yeah. And social media, if we want to follow you guys, where do we go?
At FairwaysRM on Instagram. That's the only one we really utilize as far as that goes. And then LinkedIn is Fairways Relationship Management.
So that answers my next question. What was RM for?
Yep. It's a mouthful. So we decided to put it together. We'll just go RM. That works.
FairwaysRM, Relationship Management. It's a great idea. It's a great service. It's a great conversation. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me today. This was a lot of fun. Thank you, and best of luck.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been a pleasure. It's always fun to talk golf, no matter who it's with. So this has been fantastic.
I do want to thank and welcome this week's Golf Smarter ambassador, Ron Salvati from Westchester, Ohio. Ron wrote to me asking about Tony Manzoni's video, and instead of purchasing it, he received it for free by calling our toll-free Golf Smarter listener line and recording this week's show open. You can too. And when you do, you'll have a choice of a free gift. Check out today's show notes to see more and links about each gift you have to choose from, whether it's Tony's video, a box of Odin X1 balls with the Golf Smarter logo, or a glove and glove storage compartment from redroostergolf.com. So when you write to me with a question, comment, or a suggestion about future guests, don't be surprised when I write back with an answer and my pitch to open a future episode. Write to golfsmarterpodcast@gmail.com or click on the Hey Fred button when you visit golfsmarter.com.